I think we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It is Wednesday afternoon, and this is our breast sleeping Q&A, and we are back at you here. I'm here with Shari Criso with my very special partner in crime here, Rebecca Michi, and we are ready to do another breast sleeping Q&A. It feels like we've been doing this quite often since we did this one last week, and we're starting off September, like right back in it. But
no, it's
there were
great
questions that we didn't get to last time. And, it was like, all right, we need to come back quickly. So, Hi, Rebecca. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to see you again. It's nice to hang out with you so much.
It does feel like we're hanging out. It's like, and especially we just spent time together in Chicago. And it kind of changes everything when you get to spend time in person and really be with each other. And then you go on these live webcams and it's like, oh, you're sitting right there. It's kind of amazing technology, right?
Totally is, considering we're completely opposite ends of the continent. It's very impressive.
I guess it could be worse, but we are, the continent, we are the opposite ends of the continent.
Yeah.
I could be out on Long Island, which I'm not, but I guess that would be a little further, but not much. Hi, everyone. Okay, so everyone's jumping in. We're going to give it a second for everybody to join us. Hi, Love to Dream. Hi, Kayla. All right, here comes everybody. So hopefully you all got your reminders and you are jumping in with us. Yes, I see everyone. And they already have questions, Rebecca. They are ready.
Yay!
Awesome. Okay, guys. So jump in and join us. Again, this is our breast sleeping Q&A. It's the first one of the school year hasn't started for us yet. Can you believe? Not till tomorrow.
We've been back a whole week. Well, we had Monday off, but we've been back, kind of a week.
Our girls go back late. It's like tomorrow's their first day back. We're here in New Jersey, and so we go back pretty late. I know there's been a whole bunch of people who have already been back for a month since August, but it's just the way we do things here in Jersey, right? You got to get to the shore for Labor Day, and then once that's over, they're like, all right, we'll go to school. All right, awesome. You're excited, Shauna? I'm excited too. I'm excited to see you all jumping in for another really awesome episode here where we can answer your questions on breastfeeding and sleeping. And if you're new, let me explain what we're doing. I am a registered nurse. I'm a certified nurse midwife and an international board certified lactation consultant. And I've been teaching moms and babies and dads, families for over 25 years, 27 years, and just basically focusing in on breastfeeding over the last few years to really help moms and babies to get off to the right start. And I have a online breastfeeding class. It's called Simply Breastfeeding. It's completely free to everyone now. So if you haven't watched that class, especially if you're expecting a baby, whether it's your first, your second, your third, it doesn't really matter. I want you to go ahead and watch that class, take advantage of my gift to you, okay? That is a way to get the basic knowledge and information that you need to make sure that you're doing as much as you possibly can to get off to the right start. And those first few days are so critically important. In fact, I'm gonna answer a couple questions today about that. But getting off to the right start and being prepared before the baby's born is probably one of the best gifts you can give yourself when it comes to this. So now I asked Rebecca to be here with me a couple times a month, okay, and to do this breast sleeping Q&A because breastfeeding and sleeping go hand in hand, and we know that. And it's probably the two things that we get questions about the most: breastfeeding questions and sleep questions. And so doing it together, and even when I look over these questions, Rebecca, so many of them, I have them labeled both. Yeah. Both, because they're really asking, both topics. So it's a perfect thing. I'm going to let Rebecca introduce herself for all of you who are new.
My name is Rebecca. I am a Seattle-based children's sleep consultant and author who works with families who have children under 6 years old. So there's obviously a real broad range of age and issues that I work with. I am a gentle, no-cry sleep consultant, so I'm not encouraging families to leave their child to cry it out. There's actually much more hands-on, gentle techniques that we use. If in fact we do need to do any sleep training, there is so much that we can do to get some better sleep without doing any of the big scary sleep training. So just little tweaks and things that we can make to get some better sleep. I have been working with families for over 20 years, and Shari and I have nearly 50 years worth of experience between us.
Amazing.
And so you are so lucky to be able to tap into that. And Shari has been doing with the labor and delivery nurse, with her lactation consulting. I've more sort of been working with families with child development and then moving on to sleep. So we have a ton of information, and you're really lucky that you can tap into this and we're going to answer as many questions as we possibly can in the next 54 minutes.
Exactly. No, I love what you just said there, and I don't think that we spell it out too often for you. Just how we've been able to cover the entire spectrum of new parenting, and into early childhood, and the range from preconceptual through pregnancy, through birth, breastfeeding, newborn stages, sleep, and child development. All those things, all pieces are going to affect you, and it's why we've come together to do this with you. And I think you guys can tell when we answer your questions, that's kind of the place that we're coming from, is the holistic piece of it, which is, it's not just the baby, it's not just the mom, it's the dyad together of mom and baby, and how that all interconnects to have the experience that you're having. And so you as a mom are a very important piece of this whole thing. And quite often, so much of the focus is on the baby and what the baby needs. But really, we're here to support both of you, and to support mom especially, because if we can support you and help you through this early journey through becoming a new mom, or doing it for a second time or a third time, we know that you'll take great care of your baby, and everything will be fine. So I hope that you're feeling that love from us, because we really do feel that way about you, each of you. And I watch my private group. There's a private group you can join after this. It is the My Baby Experts community, and I just watch the community supporting each other too. If anybody here in the chat is part of the community, I want to say hi to you. Everybody, if you are part of my private Facebook group, just say hi here and tell me that you are. And let's just go over the link for today. So the link is going to be the same again. All right, the link is baby. Okay, so if you want to get all the links from today's show, that means links to the classes, links to join to win a prize from Love to Dream, which in a minute I'm going to show you what that is. If you want links to the private group, and also to Rebecca's special offering today too, then you can just type the word baby, and you will get a message from me so that you can check it all out later. You don't have to worry about writing anything down or go in there now. Okay. Fantastic. Yes, baby. Just type the word baby right there. And if it doesn't work for you, there's a link in the post, as always. Okay. There's a link in the post. So our partners today are Love to Dream. Okay. And Love to Dream is one of my favorite brands. I see them here in the chat room. They were with us over in Chicago a couple weeks ago. We spent lots of quality time with them. It's my highlight of these events, that I get to see my favorite people, and Love to Dream is definitely one of them. And so we were there, and I'll show you what the Love to Dream is. This is also our prize, okay? Love to Dream, it's a swaddle suit, I want to call it, swaddle blanket suit, because you're literally zipping the baby into the suit itself. Okay, as you can see, it's not really a blanket, but it functions like a blanket in the sense that it will help to keep the baby warm when it's cold, and it will also help the baby to feel swaddled and snug. And that's a really important thing. You want it to be simple, but you want the baby to feel that snugness. I think the biggest difference between this one and so many out there is that this one is called a swaddle up, and you can see it's kind of self-explanatory. You can see that the baby's arms are in an up position, upward, not down at their sides. This is a more natural position for baby. It's where baby's arms will naturally go. Even when you unswaddle them, you'll see their hands just pop right up. It's where their arms were when they were in the womb, and so it gives them a more natural sense of where they keep their arms. It allows them to self-soothe, which helps. They can bring their hands to their mouth and soothe themselves. This is how baby soothes. They stroke their cheeks, they suck on their hands, and that's going to help your baby to learn how to settle themselves a little bit better as well. Babies do have waking cycles, which Rebecca will go through, I'm sure. But this will help them to not be so startled and wake up and need you every single time that they wake, all right? It suppresses what we call the Moro reflex, and that's the reflex that's a startle reflex. And you've all seen this. If you have a newborn, you've seen this reflex. They're born with it, where by putting their head back, they kind of jump, okay? Their arms, flail, and that will startle them awake. So this is how it helps to suppress that. It's allowing them some movement, but it's also suppressing it from a full reflex, okay? And one thing I really love about this swaddle suit with breastfeeding is that it allows you to pick up on feeding cues as well, because one of the big feeding cues for a breastfed baby is putting their hands to their mouth, okay? That is one of the earlier cues that they're hungry. And when their hands are tied down, it can become too late. You're waiting too long and you're letting them get too hungry to feed. So this is one of the things I love about this as well. It does all the best stuff of swaddling while not really suppressing the things that we need to see or that we want them to have. Self-soothing and hunger cues. It's also safer. Rebecca, you wanted to talk about how it's a safer solution.
It certainly is a safer solution because we don't have anything loose which could then suffocate, and temperature-wise as well. Some of the swaddles that you see, you're wrapping like it's a burrito. You're wrapping and wrapping and wrapping, and when you think that if your child is wearing something under there, and then you've got maybe 3 or 4 different wrappings, then they're going to likely to overheat, and overheating as well is not good when sleeping. That does increase the SIDS risk. So yeah, much safer, also much easier to transition out of. You have a picture of the 50-50 up there right now.
Yeah.
And so they have the where you can just sort of just unzip the little wing at the side, so you can have one arm out. But I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of families that having the arms up is because it's that much more natural position. It's much easier to transition your child out of that because they can still stay in the same position. If they have their arms pinned down to their sides, you can imagine sort of constantly sleeping like that, and then suddenly having your hands free, your arms free, you can't stop moving them. And so this means that transition is so much easier for your child to take when it actually comes to removing the swaddle, because this product is amazing. It's great. But at some point they do need to move out of this. When they begin to roll is when we need to move out, begin to transition out of the swaddle. And this makes it so much easier. I've actually had clients who have been swaddling in something else, and the transition has been so hard that they've then actually bought the Love to Dream, the 50-50, and they've gone into that, got their child used to sleeping with that, and then we can work on unzipping their little wings and then transitioning them out of.
Yeah, no, it's such a great product. And we were talking about the 50-50 and when a baby starts to roll, that's kind of the reason, that's kind of the time you would look to switch them out and let them have their hands free. And that's somewhere around 4 months or so. Yeah. Doing that. But again, months are not really a way to determine it. It's going to be your baby's development. Every baby's a little different. So just keep an eye on the baby. You want the baby to be able to have their hands free if they roll over. Awesome. I actually have a little video which will play in a few minutes, and I'm showing some pictures here because there's nothing, I mean, the dolls are cute, but there's nothing like seeing a real baby in these Love to Dreams, in these swaddles. So cute. So now, if you want to win, okay, we're going to be giving a couple of them away today, always. You just need to type the word baby here. It'll give you the link later so that you can enter to win. And you need to love this post. Want to see some hearts going across the screen. We haven't been doing enough hearts lately, okay? We need to do some more hearts. And then make sure you comment at some point during this live stream today, telling us what you love about it and why you could use one and why you need one, or why you have one and you could use another. Baby's maybe getting bigger, whatever it is, okay? So I want to hear from all of you, all right? Yeah, Melissa's asking, when's the best time to start using the 50? When the baby starts to roll or shows signs of rolling, somewhere around 4 months of age. But
they can be in it. They can be in it before then, and then when they start rolling, that's when you would just start unzipping one of the wings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So as we move on to a couple of questions, I would love to know where everyone is from. I always forget to ask that question. I know Joe's asking it and Stephanie's asking it in the live stream, but I want to hear, where are you guys all from? We have people following from all over the world. And especially, Rebecca, since we started doing the daytime live streams, it has really given everyone an opportunity to be available for it. We used to do them at night. They would still wake up in the middle of the night to join us, but we made it more convenient. This is a breast sleeping Q&A. We want to make sure that you're sleeping when you're supposed to be sleeping. So we're doing it during the day, and it's also been a little easier on Shari and Rebecca.
It certainly is.
Have to say, it has been easier. Okay, awesome. Here we go. California, Illinois, yay. All right, so Rebecca, let's do a couple questions. You ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I'm ready.
You're always ready, right?
I'm always ready.
So this question, here's a question from Vanessa. Okay. Vanessa said, my 14-month-old baby wakes up numerous times in the night and wants to nurse. How can I help her sleep through the night, or at least for her to sleep more? Overall, she's sleeping around 11 hours or less a day with night sleep and naps. And my question for you really is, how long should a 14-month-old, how many hours should they be getting to sleep? I know that it decreases over time. Can you give us a little overview of, at the different ages or stages, how much does a baby sleep?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we're all sort of after that perfect, how long it is that our child needs to sleep. And you'll often read in books that a child of 14 months needs to be getting 12 hours at night and around 2 hours during the day. So that's 14 hours per 24 hours. But when you think about how much sleep it is that you need and maybe how much sleep it is that your partner needs, they're probably very different. Very different. I can manage on less sleep than my husband can. And we all have our own sort of requirement of how much sleep we require to function normally. And that is exactly the same for children. That is exactly the same from birth, that every human has their own needs. So it's actually a really big, broad range of what is normal when it comes to sleep for a 14-month-old. So anything from between 10 and 16 hours per 24 hours will be classed as normal, in the normal range. So looking at what the normal range is actually not very helpful, because you look at that and you think, well, yeah, we are in there. Definitely we're in there. But it's looking at how much sleep your child needs and making sure that they're getting enough. So some things that you can look at are, how do they seem when they're awake? When we're tired, we're all kind of grumpy, all of us. There's nobody on the planet who isn't. But don't look just before your child is going down to sleep. So don't look just before they're going down to the nap or just before they're going down to bed at night, because that is when we want them to be tired. Don't look just when they wake up. Some people can just sort of bounce out of bed and they're ready to go. Others are really sleepy and really slow when they wake up, and it takes them a while to get going. So look at that mid time between waking and going down for sleep. So that could be between waking in the morning and going down for the nap, or waking from the nap and going down for the next nap, or going down for the night. Look at then that sort of midpoint and see, does your child seem sleepy and tired and irritable? Then if so, they could probably do with some more sleep. If they're actually okay, they're okay. We can't actually get anybody to take more sleep than they need, unfortunately. I would love for every single child out there to get 12 hours at night and 3 hours during the day. But we can't get a human who does not need that will not need that, and they will not get that. So it may be that your child is just on that lower end of the sleep need. That kind of sucks when they are, especially if you're not. If you have sort of the exact opposite and you need lots and your child doesn't, that's when it's tough. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to change your child. We're not necessarily going to be able to change you, but we can change when you're sleeping. So it may be that you do need to nap when your child is napping. It may be that you need to go to bed earlier, so you're getting the amount of sleep that you need.
Yeah. No, it's so great. I don't think we talk enough about what are the, parameters, but then how they're not strict, and just everything else we talk about, Rebecca, it's like, this is kind of the range. People are different. Sleep, breastfeeding, all of it is a normal bodily function that obviously as different people are going to be and different children are going to be, their behaviors, their patterns, their needs, their bodily needs are going to be different. And so
totally. It's the same with everything.
Yeah.
Some of us will need to, some children will be breastfeeding every hour and do so for a long time. Others, as they get older, will be able to go longer times between feeds. Yep. Some children are going to poop every hour. Others are not going to poop for days on end. And those things are both completely normal. It's just figuring out what is right for your child and working towards what their perfect is. Not what the perfect is that your friend's child is doing or what you read on the internet. You want to work with what's perfect for you and your child.
And I think that, what we were talking about earlier about this being a dyad, like we're addressing these things from both a mother and a baby together. We don't really address anything really in a medical way or a body function way other than breastfeeding, sleeping, and pregnancy, I guess, when the baby's inside, from two people, and how do they biologically interact together. And I think when it comes to breastfeeding and sleeping, it's not only about your baby's needs, but also how's the mom functioning as well. So you just brought up that point about breast capacity. How much milk does the mom make? And that has to do with her own breast capacity. That can have a direct impact on how long a stretch does your baby sleep, because then they need to eat. And all those things, they just kind of go together. So, and if your baby needs to eat more frequently because that's their rhythm, then you're going to make maybe less milk per feeding, but you're going to make it more frequently and fill up. So it all works together, and it's taking the whole picture into account. So I love what you're saying there. I love what you're saying. Yes. Awesome. All right. Should we show a little video of they're all commenting on the Love to Dream. I'm going to show them the video right now so that we don't get too far into it. Let's show this. All right. So this is a cute little video we have to play for you. There we go. Sorry for the abruptness there.
I remember when I was swaddling my kids, they're now teenagers, so that was like a million years ago. But I remember that 55 seconds that it took to swaddle the baby on the right, that's kind of quick. It took me, I would spend sometimes like 7 or 8 minutes when I first started swaddling, because swaddling on a doll, which is what all my experience was, and then trying to actually swaddle on a real life baby as two very, very different things. And 55 seconds, that was kind of like a breeze. If it only took 55 seconds, 7 or 8 minutes was kind of a little bit more normal for me.
And who has one that just busts out? I mean, no matter how tight you try to do the swaddle, no matter how good you think you got it, they're out. And it only gets worse as they get larger too. And, sometimes like a newborn, you can kind of do it. The blankets kind of still fit. But then to really get it as they get bigger, they're 2 months old, at that age, at 6 weeks, they're pretty fussy. It's when that whole thing is really kind of peaking for a baby.
Yeah.
And so, and they're big and they're strong at that point. And the blankets, if they're big enough, they're actually usually too big because they're wrapping around them too much. It becomes that kind of hazard. So,
Yeah.
you know I had a baby that just wanted to bust out. And then what you'll hear from parents is, my baby hates to be swaddled.
Yeah.
But that's not really the case. The case is that they really just want their hands up. They really just want to feel that pressure against them. So they're trying to do these two motions, which is hands up and push against, right? The two things that we know they want is to feel that counter pressure, which then has them jumping out of the regular swaddles and thinking they don't want it. Right?
Yeah. Totally, yeah. And as well, you're trying to get a child into a swaddle when they're tired and they're fussy. So just, you know, if you're fighting with a 6-week-old baby trying to get them wrapped up, that is the most frustrating thing on the entire planet. And it would end up, I'd be crying, the baby would be crying. I'm just like, I'm just not even going to swaddle. I just don't care what happens. Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Totally. All right, we ready for a breastfeeding question?
Yes.
Okay, breastfeeding question. This question actually was posted in the private Facebook group, and I did answer it last night briefly because she has a 5-day-old baby. This is Jessica from our private group. But I want to address it with everyone because I think it's a really important point. It's so basic that I can sometimes tend to think, well, people already know this, when I can see from her question how it can create chaos. Just that little bit of misinformation. Okay, so she says, hi all, my baby is 5 days old today and I'm having trouble feeding. Congrats, Jessica, 5-day-old. Okay? So my baby is 5 days old today. I'm having trouble feeding. My right breast is a pro, but my left breast is clogged or something. Very little comes out when I pump. I can get about a half an ounce, but it takes a good 10 minutes to get that. My right side makes about an ounce now and doesn't take very long. So how can I make it where my left side isn't clogged so it can come out? So I want to address this because I don't know whether she's still in the hospital. The picture that she had posted, which was very adorable, showed a baby that looked like they were still in the hospital, but maybe not at this point. I guess where I'm going with this is the fact that you can pump an ounce and a half at 5 days old and you're questioning whether you're making enough is so completely in the opposite direction. Your milk is just starting to come in. And the fact that, you know, you're getting even an ounce and a half out with a pump is actually more than I would expect you to even get. So there's two things here. Is one, that, you know, we need to talk about what are the normal amounts of milk that you produce when the baby's first born. Like, how much are you supposed to be producing? How much does the baby eat per feeding? And then the second thing is, why are you pumping? So why are you pumping at 5 days old to try to figure out how much the baby's getting? Is the baby not latching? Is somebody working with you? Are you putting the baby to breast and somehow thinking it's not enough, so you're testing it to see how much you can get after the feed? So all these things, first let me address like the pumping, okay? I don't recommend, unless you're unable to latch and you're getting help from a lactation consultant right now, and just in the interim while you're working with somebody who knows what they're doing to help you latch, you're pumping to keep your supply going and feed the baby whatever you pump, then in that case, okay, and hope that you're seeing someone. If the case is that you're feeding the baby and then you're pumping after the feeding because someone told you to either check to see what's there or to make sure that you make as much milk as possible. And this is where I'm worried this is happening, because I've heard this kind of advice from pediatricians and obstetricians who will say, when I was breastfeeding, I was told I nursed my baby and then I pumped after the feeding. Pump after every feeding so you make lots of milk. All right. Making milk is not about making as much milk as you possibly can, because there's really, for most moms, there'll be no limit. All right. Making milk is what I consider like the Goldilocks rule. Okay. You don't want too much. You don't want too little. You want what's just right. Okay. And Goldilocks is like that. Remember, they just what you want, just enough. And so that's about how you want to decide what does your baby need. Now, how do you do that without pumping? You're putting the baby back to breast as often and as frequently as the baby wants to eat. And in the beginning, in those first few days when there's colostrum and then the milk's transitioning, It may be every hour. It may be frequently. It may come in clusters where for a few hours straight, the baby's just nursing and nursing and off and on and off and then gets a nice long stretch of maybe 3 hours of sleep and then comes back and clusters again. And those are all normal behaviors of a newborn, okay? You're in a place right now where it is literally a transition place of going from colostrum to mature milk. And that can take anywhere from 2 to 5, even 6 days, all right? So I'm very concerned about the fact that you're trying to measure it at this point. And the first thought in your mind is that it's not enough. I'm gonna pop a picture up here for all of you to see, okay? I've shown you guys this picture before, but it's such a good one, okay? This picture will kind of demonstrate for you how much a baby eats at a feeding, okay? And we're talking about how much do they eat in those early days. I put it into a bottle so that you can see, because obviously if they're nursing at the breast, you are not going to see this, right? But it'll give you an idea so that you know that it's not a lot. This first bottle here on the left is how much a baby pretty much takes on day 1 per feeding. And that's about a teaspoon. See how much is in that bottle? About a teaspoon per feeding. And that could be as often as the baby wants to eat. All right. The second one on the left here, this is day 3. And day 3 is somewhere around a ½ an ounce. Okay. That's how much, again, they're taking per feeding. Sometimes it could be a little less, sometimes it could be a little more. Again, all averages and an approximate amount of how much your body's making, how much your baby needs to take. Here on the third one in is day 10, and that's representing about 1½ to 2 ounces. Now your baby's 5 days old, Jessica, and we're looking at a bottle here with about 1.5 ounces in it at 10 days, 2 weeks, okay? That's a normal intake for a newborn at that age. And this would be if you weren't nursing at all, if you weren't breastfeeding at the breast, okay? If you're nursing and then pumping that amount, it's even more than that. And then of course, the last one here on the right, this is, somewhere around 6 weeks, your milk will get to where it's going to regulate to the norm that it'll be for the rest of the year. It's somewhere around 3 to 4, sometimes a little bit more, 4.5, 5 ounces, but no more than that. Okay, and that's per feeding until the time in such you wean, which could be any time. I'm talking like the entire year, 2 years. They're never taking more than that. I'm going to pop it up a little bit bigger so you can really see it. Okay, they're really never taking more than that. I know Rebecca and I, we discussed this a lot at in Chicago when we were sitting with all the expectant parents, right? It was one of the topics we really talked about. And it's always surprising to new parents, how much does a breastfed baby eat? And the fact that it doesn't increase beyond that 4 ounces or so the whole year. I mean, I don't know. I get the question all the time, which is, yes, I'm making enough now. My baby's 3 months old. I'm producing, good 4 ounces, 3-4 ounces. But what happens when they hit 7 or 8 months old and I have to make like 8, 9 ounces, 10 ounces, like these big bottles that I see of formula? And the answer is you never have to. You never have to, okay? And that should be very reassuring, all right? In fact, the first 6 months of your baby's life is when, if you're exclusively breastfeeding, is when you're gonna be making the most amount of milk because the baby is exclusively being breastfed. There is no other food, okay? The second 6 months, while the feedings do not decrease in volume, they may decrease in frequency, okay, because the baby's taking in solids or beginning to take in solids. And so they're getting some nutrition from somewhere else. They may not be as hungry. Totally fine. You may go from 8 or 10 feedings in a 24-hour period to 4 or 6 feedings in a 24-hour period. So you're going to make less. And typically that when I had my store and moms used to come in for bra fittings with me, they would sit somewhere. I'd always expect them back around 6 months. Their breast shrunk. Right? Yeah. They would do their fittings during their pregnancy. The bras would fit perfectly. They would fit for a good 6 months. And then somewhere around 6 months, all of a sudden you notice like my breasts feel smaller, like my bras aren't fitting the same way. And a lot of it has to do with the baby starting to eat solids and the milk supply starting to go down a little. And that's all very, very normal. So I think the takeaway from this question and from this conversation about milk volume is just knowing what the norm is. knowing what the norm is. You know, the more that you can learn what's normal about breast milk capacity, breast milk volume, baby stomach sizes, normal feeding amounts, the more you will be equipped to make the right choices as these things come up. Obviously, we can never hit on the exact question you have. You know, everybody's questions are, well, that's not exactly what I asked. She had it, well, her baby was 6 weeks, mine was 4 weeks. It doesn't matter. Learn the norms, learn what's normal, and you will be able to apply that logic as you're breastfeeding, because it is quite logical.
I think as well, it's very misleading when you look at bottles. Some of these things are 9 ounces, and you're kind of looking at a bottle and you're thinking that is so much to fill. When you look at it and you think that is how much a child should be drinking, because that's the size that the bottle. Even in a small bottle, when you showed the picture of the 4 ounces, it still kind of does it. It's not full. And it's all sort of like, I've got to fill it. And so I think if you're looking at, you know, the amount of ounces, yes, 4 ounces, when you think about it, that's a lot. If you were trying to carry that in your hands, that's a lot of milk that is. But when you see it in a bottle, it looks so very, very small. And so don't let bottles or the bags that you store breast milk in, don't let those sort of give you that false sense of insecurity, because it's just an insecurity that you're not creating enough when in fact you're doing everything great.
Totally. And I would recommend for exclusive pumping or exclusive breastfeeding and nursing moms, if you're going to use bottles, then to only get the small bottles that go up to 4 or 5 ounces. Don't even invest in the 9 ounce bottles. Putting 2 ounces in a 9 ounce bottle looks kind of, it's
nothing. It looks like a dribble in the bottle.
And it will make you feel like there's not enough. It'll make everyone around you feel like, oh, is that it? Like, and that's the worst thing. I think that's the worst thing you could say to a breastfeeding or pumping mom, is that it? You know, so just get the small bottles. That's all you're going to need. That's all you're going to need. Crazy, great. Love it. Okay, so can we get some hearts? Let's get some hearts going across the screen here. We haven't been getting enough hearts. I want to see hearts and see all the love going across here. Yes. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Rebecca, do you want to tell them about your new ebook that they can get?
Yes, I'd love to. Yes. And I think this sort of just goes completely hand in hand in what we do, being realistic. And so obviously I'm looking at a lot of information on sleep online, and a lot of it is just so unrealistic. I'm sure you've seen that book, like 12 hours by 12 weeks or something completely bonkers crazy like that. Totally unrealistic. And so I came up with an ebook, and I wrote an ebook which is called The Realistic Mum's Guide to Sleep. And it is just that. It's a realistic look at what is normal, what we can expect. So we're looking at, first off, what's normal with different ages and sort of what the average is, looking at when wake-ups are happening, what kind of stretches that we can look at. We're looking at regressions, we're looking at night wakings, we're looking at sleep training if you actually need to do it. And it's just a real honest, realistic look. And the great thing is that I've put this ebook together. It is free. And I think if you just type the word baby, you are going to get the link to sign up for this free ebook. We also then have a mini course that is going to be starting next week, and it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Again, just a real honest, realistic look. You're going to get an email in the morning, and then I'm going to do a Facebook Live in my private sleep support group, where we're just going to be honestly talking about what to expect when it comes to your child's sleep. I'm really excited about this because there is so much misinformation, and it drives me absolutely insane. And so I just want to get the truth out there about what is normal, what isn't normal, and what we can do to get the best possible sleep, looking at what is developmentally normal. And it's not just looking at what some can do. Some children can sleep through the night at 6 weeks old, but yes, many cannot. So you can just type baby. You will then get the link. You can sign up. It is all free, and the course starts next week. But you'll get all the instructions on how you can join the little workshop as well.
Yep. Everybody's asking. They're asking, where can they buy the book? It is free. Okay. So just so that you're all clear, the ebook that Rebecca just described, it's free. It's a gift to you. Okay. My breastfeeding class, the Simply Breastfeeding 90 minutes online course. This is my signature best course that I have to teach you how to breastfeed. It's free. Okay. So there's no excuse for anyone to not be checking this stuff out and watching it. And if I see you coming in here with questions and you didn't watch it, just kidding. But there's so much more that we need to give you, and which is why it's there. I'm going to actually give you the link here, so you can say simplybreastfeeding.com and type the word baby. You will get a link to all of this that we're talking about. Okay, type the word baby. You have to type the word baby again once I message you, and then you get it. All right, so just make sure you do it twice. All right, great. Did anybody has anybody else watched Simply Breastfeeding? I'd like to know, because I know people are signing up and watching it. I'd just love to see, is anybody here in the chat, have you watched the class already? I want to hear if you've watched it. And if you have, tell me something you learned in the class that you didn't know prior to watching it. All right, so there's the question for the day. Did you watch the class and tell me something that you learned that you didn't know? All right. Rebecca, are you ready for a question?
Yes.
Okay. The question is, this came in from Taryn. She said her daughter just turned 6 months old. They visited family for 2 weeks, and she slept in the bed with her while they were gone. Prior to the trip, she slept fine in her crib, which is 2 feet from their bed, waking 1 to 2 times in the night to feed, and then went straight back to sleep in her crib without crying. But since they've been back, she nurses her to sleep, puts her in the crib, and she wakes instantly for 5 to 10 minutes, later screaming until I pick her up. We went on for an hour with shushing, patting the back, calming her down until I walk away. The other night, when I finally gave up and put her in bed with me and my husband, and put her in bed with her and her husband, she still wakes up the night when she was in bed, but with us, but she goes back to sleep even if I don't feed her. How can I get her to sleep in her crib again without screaming hysterically? And so I guess, this comes up often, this whole idea of, what babies are in a routine as much as they can, a routine of being at home and you're doing what you're doing. And then they get out of their routine and it's really hard to get them back into the routine. Yeah, so how do we help people get back into routines once that's been broken, like the trip or visiting family, or it doesn't even have to be them leaving. It could be someone coming.
Someone coming to stay. Yes, any kind of big thing that happens can disrupt sleep, and we know this. It can be having some grandparents come and stay. It could be starting daycare. It could be moving house. It could be traveling. Anything, to be honest, can disrupt sleep. And when you think about it, you think that your child has been sleeping a certain way for months on end, and that could be for their entire life. And then you go and change that. And that could be then that they're in bed with you, or there's this big change that happens. And then and that's fine. You're dealing with the change. Great. And then when you get back home, or grandparents leave, or you're getting settled in, you want to work on getting back on track. And so the only way that we can kind of work on getting back on track is moving forward to going those steps to getting how your child was sleeping. And so in this case, that is going from bed sharing to being a little bit more independent in the child's crib. And this is something that I so often hear of, is that when traveling or an illness, the child will then sleep with the parents, and then getting back on track can be really, really tricky. Oftentimes what I have found is that when we have a big thing happen, for example, travel or illness or anything else, one of these big things that's going to disrupt sleep, we're not ever able to get back to the exact same thing that we were, because this is kind of hurried up a normal developmental change that was going to happen anyway. And so what I would suggest doing is, if you can't instantly get back on track, you're really struggling as you are getting lots and lots of crying, I would then first off take a look at how you need to tweak and change your daytime. Always look at the daytime, because that's going to help you get back on track for your nighttime. It's not something that you'd necessarily think that you would need to work on, because the issue is with the night. And so you can be putting all your time, effort, and energy into fixing the nighttime. Whereas in fact, if you made some tweaks with the daytime, then that would actually help your nighttime just naturally just kind of get back to where it was. So what I would suggest doing with a 6-month-old is to look at the daytime routine. Chances are you need to stretch out some time between naps. 2, 3, 4 is perfect. And you can read all about that on my blog, about the different daytime routines that are suitable for different ages. But that's what I would work on. And I think it may not be that your child is instantly, then you can lay them down, they roll over and go to sleep, but it's going to make that getting back on track so much easier, because you're trying to get them down at the right time. If you're trying to get them down to sleep and they're not ready, or they're overtired, they fight it. And so the timing is really crucial, especially as we're getting over 6 months of age.
Awesome. No, I love that. I think that, like you said, sometimes we're focused on when the sleep is occurring that you need to fix, but it could be the sleep, feeding, everything impacts. What you do during the day is going to impact what you do at night. The same thing goes for breastfeeding as well. So it all kind of works together.
So when I'm working with families, if everything's going great and then suddenly the nighttime begins to get more challenging, and that could be a harder time falling asleep or more wake ups, the first thing I'm looking at is the daytime, and I'm looking at to see how we can tweak that. I would then spend time tweaking that. Honestly, 9 times out of 10, the nighttime just falls back into place. And so that's easy for us to do. Dealing with stuff during the daytime is much easier than dealing with a 3 a.m. wake up. So it's easy to do, and it always gets you the best results.
Awesome. You know what we didn't last time we were together, and this time as well, we haven't, invited anyone on with us. So if anybody wants to jump into the live stream with us, there's always room for that. The link is actually in the links I sent you, but I'm going to go ahead and let me type this in real quick, because I think that if you want your question answered today and you want to jump into the stream, we have some time left that we're going to go ahead and let someone jump in. So let me just type it here, and I'll put it up on the screen for you. Today's the 5th, right? Yeah,
potentially. I'm not even sure.
That is the link right there. It'll also be in the message that I sent you if you type the word baby to join Ask Live. It's just the Ask Live button. So if you want to ask live, just make sure you have a camera, whether it's on your mobile device or if you're sitting at your computer. And you can go ahead in the next 15 minutes and jump in, and we will answer your question live here face to face, which we love. Okay, so
yeah, support, and I'll make sure that Shari gets the link. If you sign up for the new ebook, you get the link to it anyway. You're going to just automatically get the link to the Facebook group.
Awesome. Yeah, because I mean, we're doing these Q&As, and we're going to probably do them even more. But right now, they're twice a month that we're doing here on my page. There's so much more that you can do with both of us, whether it's in our private groups, Rebecca's private group, mine, and my new platform that's coming, which will be a whole membership site. And that's where you're going to really get a lot of me. I have a feeling we're going to be spending a lot of time together and all the content, so that you'll have that everything you need for the stage that you need it. And I think that's really important, because when you first have your baby, there's very specific information that you need right then that it has nothing to do with going back to work or weaning or anything else. And so I'm going to try to really hold your hand through the process, so that just makes it easier for you. All right. And speaking
it can be overwhelming. If you search online for something breastfeeding, you have very specific questions for that time. You're not even thinking about what you're going to be doing in a month's time with breastfeeding. You kind of have questions there and then.
Not to mention you don't know who you're listening to, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, everybody's an expert in everything on the internet.
Good thing is that we were the experts before the internet.
We were back in the day.
The internet did not make me an expert. Right? No. The internet did not make me an expert. I was doing this long before we had anything called internet. But I've been doing it for quite a while. It's been almost 10 years of live streaming like this. So
yeah, we were doing our thing before the internet. We were helping hundreds of families before then.
Sure, that's for sure. I didn't have this with my kids. Rebecca and I have teenagers. I have 2 in high school, 2 about to start high school. So one is going to be a junior, and my baby is going to be a freshman starting tomorrow. I can't even. And I've been driving with Jade this week. She got her permit.
Oh, I'm sorry. That'll be me next. That'll be me next year. That'll be me next year. I'll have a junior and a freshman and someone who's just started driving.
Yeah, it's intense.
So,
it's really intense. I know everybody says, oh, it's going to be great. She can take herself places, but I'm a little freaked out. Anyway, okay, let's get back to breastfeeding here, right? How about a breastfeeding question? This came in from Kayleen. She said, I pump after my 3-week-old daughter's first morning nursing and after her night nursing time before she sleeps for about a 4-hour stretch. Should I be pumping more often? I've heard conflicting answers, and I want to make sure my supply is good before going back to work. Thank you so much. So 3 weeks is a little bit of an early time to start pumping for storage, okay? And in my class, and first of all, I just want to acknowledge, let me just find her name here. Okay, I want to acknowledge Husak, okay, here in the chat, who when I asked if she watched the class, she not only said yes, but she said, I took notes, and she posted her notes that she took from the class. So I just want to acknowledge you, Husak, because that is a big deal. I want you to take notes. There is actually a workbook that goes with my class. So the intention is for you to take notes, okay? And I see somebody jumped in. Casey, I see you there. So I don't know if it's Cassie or Casey, but just hang on. I'm going to finish this question, and then we're going to pull you in, okay? So Kayleen, 3 weeks is a little bit early for you to start pumping for storage. And I say that because typically the baby's, first of all, going through a growth spurt at around 3 weeks. And you want to make sure the baby's getting everything that they need and regulating your supply based on that. The other thing is that, you don't want to create an oversupply situation at this point. It's not necessary. I want you to get just completely focused on getting your body regulated to your baby. That said, I know that so many moms are starting work early. You don't have a long maternity leave. And so, I may be saying this, your baby's 3 weeks old and you're going back to work at 6 weeks or even 4 weeks. It could be soon. So I get that. And I'm sensitive to the fact that you may need to be storing some of this milk. And in that case, you are doing the right thing after a feeding twice a day. It's not every single feeding. And you also didn't tell me how much you're pumping during those feedings. Okay. So I would say that for most people, when you watch the class, I have a whole chapter on starting the baby, introducing the bottle to your baby, to your breastfed baby with breast milk, starting to pump a little bit after, once a day to be able to feed the baby. If you're keeping it to no more, I would say no more than an ounce after the feeding. All right, use that as a rule of thumb. That way, you're not going to create an oversupply situation, but it does give you that little extra that if you wanted to start storing away, you could do it. I wouldn't do a lot, and I also wouldn't, if you can wait, I would wait till 6 weeks. That's when I typically recommend waiting to start pumping for storage, all right? There's also another class called Breast Pumps and Briefcase that I have where I help you to calculate how much do you need for that first day back, because moms tend to think they need like a freezer filled with milk, and that's not true. Okay, you do need some freezer stash. If you don't have it, all you need is enough for that first day back, really. Okay, because you'll be pumping while you're at work. So I would say if you can hold off till 6 weeks, hold off. If you can't, then try not to do more than an ounce after those 2 times that you're doing. I don't like, even after 6 weeks, I don't like you pumping more than the equivalent of 1 extra feeding per day, in addition to exclusively feeding your baby. Okay, let me say that again. The equivalent of 1 extra feeding, which probably is around 3 ounces, right? 3, maybe 4 ounces. No more than 1 extra feeding in addition to fully feeding the baby total for the 24 hours. Maybe you're pumping 1 ounce in the morning, 1 ounce in the evening, or 1.5, something like that. You could divide it out, but no more than 1 extra feeding in 24 hours is really the rule of thumb to avoid that overproduction and then the risk of plugged ducts and mastitis and foremilk issues and gassiness and all the other things that could come along with too much milk. When we think of breast milk, we think the more the better. There can be just as many, if not more, issues with oversupply. All right, so you don't want to do either. All right, one is not better than the other. I hope that helps. One thing I do want to well, you know what? I have a video that I've been wanting to show, which is the my 3-stage pumping method. It helps you to get more milk out with your breast pump, but I don't want to leave Casey here. I want her to ask her questions. If we have time for the video, then we will bring it on after. If not, you guys can all check it out in the private group. Stephanie will post it. It's also in my videos on my Facebook page. It's also on my YouTube channel, so you'll be able to see it. But in the meantime, we've got a live mama here ready to ask a question, so I would rather go there, okay? Let's get some hearts going across. I want to see, like, I don't know, 25 more hearts. 25 more hearts. Can we do that right now? All right, 25 hearts. Go ahead, push the hearts button. Let's bring her on here. Here we go. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
I am tired.
Tired. Oh, I totally get. Is it Casey or Cassie?
It is Casey. And yeah, I have a 10-month-old who she's lovely. There she is playing on the floor with all of her brother's stuff.
So cute.
And she was a great sleeper. She's always been a great nurser, but she was always a great sleeper from birth on. She was giving us 3 and 4 hours straight home from the hospital. And when she hit the 9-month mark and started crawling, our good sleep went away. And now it's maybe 2 hours at a time that she's sleeping and up, and it's not pat and she falls back to sleep. It's wailing. You have to pick her up. She wants to latch on. She has not taken to solids. That's the one thing we know that I had her assessed for an aversion. They've diagnosed her with an aversion. So she starts therapy for that next week. But we're exhausted. And so she ends up sleeping in our bed after about like midnight, 1 o'clock. I'm done. Like I can't do this anymore. So, and then I have no idea how often she's latching in the middle of the night because it doesn't even wake me up anymore. And what can I do to help her sleep more independently again? Her crib is in our room.
Great question. So there is a doozy of a sleep regression at 9 months, and that's what you're in the middle of. And the reason that it's such a doozy is because we have so much going on developmentally. You say that she started to crawl. So that in itself is enough to cause a regression. But when she starts to crawl, she then begins to get separation anxiety. That in itself is enough to cause a regression. And then we have a lot going on cognitively, a lot going on with her brain development as well. That in itself is enough to cause a regression. And so now we have the trifecta of things that are going to mess sleep up. And so that's what you're in the middle of. And so, to be honest, you're doing everything right. And that doesn't necessarily make this any easier. But you are doing everything right. You're still, it seems like she's spending part of the night sleeping a little bit more independently, which is perfect. And then you kind of get to that point where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. And then you're bringing her in with you because that's giving you and her the best sleep possible. The fact that she's starting the night a little bit more independently means that when she's ready to get back on track, when she's out of this regression, then you're not having to start again. That's when things can get hard, is that you don't know when she's out of the regression. You don't know when sleep would be better because she would always be in with you. But because she's that little bit more independent at the beginning of the night, you will be able to see when things are getting back on track. And then you can then work on having an easier time having her falling asleep and then getting back to sleep and then getting those longer stretches in her bed. So right now you are doing everything perfectly. Just make sure that when she's in bed with you, the space is really safe. So that would be the only thing that I would suggest.
Not our first coasting rodeo. So
perfect. So, and you're doing everything right. And I would love to gift to you a month's membership to my brand new member site called Slumber Academy. It's not even launched yet, but I will get you signed up for that because you will find out everything that you need for that specific age. You have access to everything, but you've got everything you need. One of the things I go really in depth into, one of the bundles, one of the classes is regressions, looking at how you can manage it and then how you can get back on track. So I would love to gift you a month membership to Slumber Academy.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're generous.
Right. Thank you.
You know, I wanted to ask you, Casey, how does it as you're asking the question, and I know like when you're not sleeping and you're going through this, I mean, like a week is like a year, a night is like a month, you know, it feels like that. And I know because I went through so many sleep challenges with my second, and I felt like a zombie. You know, I felt like I had some depression because of it. It was just like a lot to handle. So just curious, as Rebecca's describing the regressions and describing the normalcy of what's happening and the fact that you're doing it right, but it's not really fixing the problem. It's just like you're just doing what you're doing. How does it feel to have her say that to you? I know that it doesn't say, oh, it's not like this eureka, like I figured out the solution, but does it feel more reassuring to know that nothing wrong?
It's validating because my son, my 3-year-old, was a terrible sleeper, and when he was an infant, we were in the process of moving cross country, and so we were 6 months not in a home.
Yeah.
And so he was like 2 when I was pregnant with her when I finally kicked him out, and it was kicking out. He wasn't. He still would rather just sleep with me.
Right.
But so I feel like we've made a very conscious effort to have her used to her own bed. You know, the balance, have the crib in our room, but so she's close and it's easier on me, but she's not so dependent. But my husband and I are both a little bit at our wits' end with the up all night thing, because this is almost harder when you had a sleeper and then suddenly you don't, is much harder than him, who never slept well on his own. And so I was just used to being sleep deprived. I'm not used to it now. So the last month has been really hard.
Right. And you can go through that with the same child when you go through these regressions. And it's one of the warnings we give to all moms who are like, oh, my baby's sleeping through the night. I'm done. Baby's 3 months old and sleeping through the night. I'm like, oh, don't get too excited yet.
No.
And so it's like the disappointment of like what's happening. I just wondered how it felt to hear that it's normal and that it'll pass, and that we go through these cycles and we go through these regressions. And same for breastfeeding, you know, same for sleep. You know, it doesn't give you more energy, but it can make you feel less abnormal, I guess.
Yes. And less anxious as well. I think if you're always trying to fix something that's actually you can't fix, you then know that you don't have to put all that effort and energy into something that is unfixable. You can put it into sort of other areas of your life. We've only got so much to give. In any one day, we've only got so much to give. And knowing that you can kind of put that somewhere else and just sort of accepting that this is how it's going to be for now. And this sort of means that I found that that completely changed, especially when it came to sleep with my youngest daughter, who's now nearly 14. But it just really said that this is how it's going to be. I've just kind of got to accept it. And when I accepted it, rather than trying to fix it, it was just so cathartic to me. And I was just be able to relax so much more. And rather than fix, I'm a sleep consultant, I've got to fix it. And it was just like, actually, I can't. We're going through something I cannot fix. And so just deal with it.
And I kind of wonder, too, with her rejection of solids, she has never kept a bite of solid food down. If that combined with the crawling means that her energy demands are just a little higher, and so she actually needed to add in a feeding where she didn't before. My husband thinks that this is all a little nuts, but I said, well, baby's got to eat.
Totally. You have to think of how many calories she's burning each day, way more now that she's crawling than when she was just laying there. And so she needs to get those calories from somewhere. If she's not getting them from solid foods, she will get them from breast milk. And so again, that's fine. That's okay. As you're managing to deal with the feeding issues, then everything will kind of then fall into place. But it could be that you're way out of the regression by then anyway. Sleep's got a little bit easier, but then it just sort of continues to do so once you've got the solids issue, once you've managed to work through that.
Awesome. Okay.
You know, I used to teach a class years ago. It was a childbirth class, really. It was a childbirth preparation class, and we called it surrender. And, you know, I'm a midwife. And so much of what I taught was about really surrendering to your body in the process. And when I'm sitting here thinking about what you're describing and what you're going through and what so many of the moms here in the chat and everywhere else are going through, it's about being able to surrender to the process of it, that then you're not fighting against it. You know, so like whatever it takes, like when you're in labor and there's pain and there's, you know, and it's hard. Okay. And, you know, there's only one way to go through it, and that's straight through, right? Like you can't just like go home, Sarah, I had enough and go home. You can't do that. At the surrender actually makes the process easier. It doesn't make the contractions less uncomfortable necessarily. It doesn't make them, they're getting stronger, right? Things are difficult and it's challenging. But when you can teach yourself to surrender and let yourself do whatever comes naturally to get through that moment, I think it could be similar with breastfeeding. I think it could be a similar philosophy with sleep.
Definitely.
And that's where, like, knowing that, and sometimes with first time parenting, we don't know that it's going to get better, where the community can really help to say, you know, look, even if you have a sleeper that's you're struggling with right now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be like that forever, and surrender into it. And for your case, it could be just bring the baby into bed with you, know that you're going to get through this, get some naps during the day, let some house go, like try to just be with the moment.
Yeah. But I think it's hard for us to feel, we don't feel in control, and that's hard. I know, you know, some people have an easier time than others. I do not have a great time when I don't feel in control. And so it just sort of that letting go is easier for some than say it was for me.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
We're sending you big hugs and a big nap too.
Yes, I
want a nap.
I discovered that if I don't nap with them, if I can get the 3-year-old and the infant to nap at the same time, I need it. Otherwise, my anxiety ratchets up way up with the sleep deprivation.
That's the surrender right there. That's the surrender right there. And I don't mean like surrender in just like a philosophical way. I mean surrender like, okay, I'm tired. They're going down. I'm going down. I surrender. I take a nap now. I get my sleep when I can.
Yeah. So.
And you'll get through it. So awesome. So good to see your face.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.
That was awesome. We need to make sure that more people are logging in to join us live for the next few ones. I think that taking some questions and working with people directly right now on the camera would be a really nice thing. Okay, so if you guys will all make a note of that for yourselves, then I can provide you with links. It really does follow the same format each time. It's live and the date, and so that usually will help you to get there quicker. I always use the same one. So if you want to make a note of that, I'll make sure that I put it into the announcements as well. And get ready with your question and join us. You know, sometimes it's hard to answer specifically what you're talking about without getting a little bit more information. So having you live here on the camera really does make a difference for us to be able to ask questions and go back and forth. And sometimes, and I know Rebecca will agree with me on this, sometimes the question you're asking is not necessarily the answer you need.
Yeah.
And that's where, with our experience, we can help you the most, that sometimes what you're asking us is not necessarily the thing that's going to help you the most in our response. And so that's our job, is to work with you and guide you. And that's what a teacher and a guide and someone who guides you does. Okay. And then hopefully you're getting that from both of us during these live streams and into the new classes and platforms that we have. So did everybody have a wonderful time? I want to say thank you to Love to Dream. Thanks for always supporting wonderful education and providing tools and products that help us to do our job better, and parents to have an easier transition into parenting and happier, safer babies, right? If you did not enter yet, make sure you go to the link and you type baby here so that you can get into a link to enter to win. You'll get Rebecca's ebook, okay, her free ebook, my Simply Breastfeeding class, and everything else. And make sure that you join us in our private groups so that we can spend more time with you. Rebecca, we went over.
I know. Shocking.
It was a good show. It was too good.
It was great.
Goodbye. All right, everyone. We love you. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you very soon. Very, very soon. Bye, Rebecca.
Bye.
Bye.